Okay, hi guys, this is Dennis from Dennis Oakley Strategy Consulting, and today I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about how you get out and you stress test a business model. Sorry, need a little bit of Coke to keep me going. So why do you want to stress test your business? Well, basically, the world is changing really quite quickly. The marketing environment, the commercial environment is changing on a regular basis. If you keep on doing business as usual, the rest of the world changed, you don't, and therefore your sales, your profits will go down, and eventually your business is going to be toast. It's that simple. Depending on the sector or the business that you're in, this might take longer or shorter times. But go back 100 years, most of the big businesses that were around then are no longer big businesses. Most of the people who are big now didn't even exist a decade, 2 decades, 5 decades ago. So you need to regularly reevaluate your business, how it's working, and figure out what you need to do next. The way that we do this is by going through your business and systematically stress testing it. So the simplest way of doing it is when managers get together in the room together and they say, okay, how are sales doing? How are margins doing? How are our KPIs doing? And that gives an instantaneous snapshot at a point of time about how the business is doing on some of the key operational metrics. That, however, is very much focused in the business. What is the business doing right now? It's a level of, it tests managerial competency, but it doesn't look at the business as a whole and understand how it is positioned. The other end of the scale, marketing goes out, they do market research, they talk to customers, and they have an understanding of how well the company is doing in the marketplace and what sort of promotions and strategies need to be run to increase market share or to increase sales or to get upsells and all those sorts of things. But again, that is a relatively limited slice of reality for a particular purpose. What I do, or what we're going to be talking about here, is stress testing the entire business model. And in essence, it's a fairly simple process. The complexity comes as you ask questions that are challenging, and sometimes you can find it difficult to find answers. A hint here, if all the answers are easy, often it's because you're just thinking about them on a very superficial level. You're repeating groupthink, you're repeating what you think you know rather than the underlying reality. So as I talk about this, think about how you would delve into your business to answer some of these questions on a very fundamental level. So what we do, and there are a lot of ways that you could do this, but the simplest is to take a model of the company. I use the business model canvas, and that divides the company up into 9 sections here. Customers, the value proposition, your customer relationships, let me try and get my fingers, the marketing and distribution channels that you use, and how you make revenue. So that's the first 5. The second 4 are the key resources that you need, the key activities that you undertake, the partnerships and suppliers that you have, and how you incur your cost to deliver everything. So looking at these 9 different parts of the company, and broadly speaking, they cover the whole of the company. There are a couple of other things that you can include. You might want to look at some things like competitive advantage or the problem that you're solving to add in a little bit more depth and detail. And then for each of these, you ask tough questions. So you ask questions about how are our margins changing over time? How are our sales changing over time? How are customers responding to the value? Have we got a fit between the value that we're offering and what the customers want to? How are the customers changing? So each of these sections, you go through them one by one, and I have a way of scoring it. So you score each section, and at the end of it, you're able to say, okay, this is a measure of how robust the company is. It's then worthwhile looking at the main sources of threat to the company, identifying them, and then with the strength of the company or the weakness of the company in mind, you say, okay, how good is our ability to respond to each of these threats? Are they, we use a simple risk-based methodology based on severity and likelihood. If there is a major change of regulation, how serious is this going to be to my company, and what is the likelihood of that happening? So at the end of all this, you've managed to test your company in a fairly simple way. You can take a few hours, few minutes to do it on a very simple basis. Going into more depth like I do with the corporate clients, it takes a workshop of a couple of days going through everything, and a lot of the time that is taken up by conflicting views within the management team about different questions and how they should be answered, which is enlightening as it happens. That then gives you a fairly robust understanding of where your business is positioned in the marketplace and what are the threats that the company needs to look at going forward over the next few months or few years. The next step, which I'll talk about in another video, is then, okay, how do you take this understanding of the company and where it is now and use that to your advantage? How can you use that understanding to find a blue ocean, a space where you have got competition isn't so tough, where you've got the opportunity to increase margins, to do something new or interesting, or alternatively, you can play around and look at how your competitors appear to be responding to what's happening in the market, identifying a lot better their strengths and weaknesses, and then you use your newfound knowledge to actually redesign or tweak your business model to give them a slightly higher, harder time and take market share off them. So I hope this has been a bit interesting. It's given you some understanding of what you want to do when you stress test your business model. I generally sort of carry on a little bit longer. I generally look at a company. It's worth doing once a year, an exercise like this. Do the first time in a lot of depth, and then come back every 6 months or 12 months, depending on how fast moving your industry is, and say, has anything changed? Where am I? What are the new issues that we need to be aware of? And this gives you a fairly robust early warning system and allows you to plan long term. So if you'd like to know a bit more about this and how I work on it and how I work with clients, let me know. Send me an email. Have a look at all the other content on dennis-oakley.com. If you want to try it yourself, it is in essence fairly straightforward. The difficulty is in asking the right questions, asking the tough follow-up questions, and being entirely honest with yourself, because it is very easy to say everything is okay when actually it isn't, and not intentionally but unintentionally delude yourself over the level of risk that you are facing, and that is a big problem. But go for it. Any problems, any doubts, give me a call and I'll see what I can do to help you.